To Kill a Mockingbird, Chapter 9. Before we begin our discussion of Chapter 9, I would like to point out why To Kill a Mockingbird is such a controversial book, which is actually banned in several states and in several schools. Like Huck Finn, To Kill a Mockingbird does include the use of the N-word to describe African Americans. This is controversial, of course, because that word is a slur and an insult. However, Harper Lee uses the word to denote how the South treated African Americans and to have an authentic use of language from that time period and the setting. Any time that the N-word is used in summary or in the book, I will refer to it as the N-word, as I personally do not feel comfortable saying this word. I would like to begin on the first page of Chapter 9, which is page 99 in the book. "You can just take that back, boy." This order given by me to Cecil Jacobs was the beginning of a rather thin time for Jim and me. My fists were clenched and I was ready to let fly. Atticus had promised me he would wear me out if he ever heard of me fighting any more. I was far too old and too big for such childish things, and the sooner I learned to hold in, the better off everybody would be. I soon forgot. Cecil Jacobs made me forget. He had announced in the schoolyard the day before that Scout Finch's daddy defended N-words. I denied it, but told Jim. "What do you mean by saying that?" I asked. "Nothing," Jim said. "Ask Atticus. He'll tell you." "Do you defend N-words, Atticus?" I asked him that evening. "Of course I do. Don't say the N-word, Scout. That's common." So there Atticus reveals some of his characterization when he tells Scout not to use the N-word. At this time, many people are racist, especially in Maycomb, as we will see as the book develops more. But Atticus, is he a racist? He's telling Scout not to use the N-word, but he does have an African-American cook. And how does he treat this cook? These are all things we need to ask ourselves when we question Atticus's character. At school, Scout nearly starts a fight with a classmate named Cecil Jacobs after Cecil declares that Scout Finch's daddy defends N-words. Atticus has been asked to defend Tom Robinson, a black man accused of raping a white woman. It is a case he cannot hope to win, but he tells Scout that he must argue it to uphold his sense of justice and self-respect. At Christmas time, Atticus's brother Jack comes to stay with Atticus for a week during the holidays. Scout generally gets along well with Uncle Jack, but when he arrives in Maycomb, she begins cursing in front of him, a habit that she has recently picked up. After supper, Jack has Scout sit on his lap and he warns her not to curse in his presence. They also discuss Jack's cat, whose name is Rose Almer. On Christmas Day, Atticus takes his children and Jack to Finch's Landing, a rambling old house in the country where Atticus's sister, Alexandra, and her husband live. There, Scout endures Francis, Alexandra's grandson, who had been dropped off at Finch's Landing for the holiday. Scout thinks Francis is the most boring child she has ever met. She also has to put up with the prim and proper Alexandra, who insists that Scout dress like a lady instead of wearing pants. One night, Francis tells Scout that Dill is a runt and then calls Atticus a N-word lover. Scout curses him and beats him. Francis tells Alexandra and Uncle Jack that Scout hit him and Uncle Jack spanks her without hearing her side of the story. After they return to Maycomb, Scout tells Jack what Francis said, and Jack becomes furious. Scout makes him promise not to tell Atticus, however, because Atticus had asked her not to fight anyone over what is said about him. Jack promises and keeps his word. Later, Scout overhears Atticus telling Jack that Tom Robinson is innocent but doomed, since it's inconceivable that an all-white jury would ever acquit him. Unreliable narrator. I wanted to talk a little bit about why Scout may be what we consider an unreliable narrator. Unreliable narrators are usually very, very young, so we think of Tom Sawyer or Huck Finn. Scout herself is very young when the story is told. However, she is looking back on it as a flashback, but in the moment of when the story is told, Scout is very young. Therefore, Scout doesn't see the world with a wise eye. This might make her an unreliable narrator, the fact that she is young and she doesn't see the world with the prowess and with the sophistication of an adult.